Hello everyone and Happy New Year. Welcome back to Cook With Me Live. Thank you so much for being on with me tonight. I have got a really cool salad for you tonight, and it's called the Zoodle Pad Thai. So while everyone's logging in, if I can just get you guys to give me a little bit of a big hurrah, those of you that are on with me live tonight, and those of you that are watching this as a recording, still I would love for you to be able to interact. So if you can jump online either during or after and share a photo of what you're creating, that would be so wonderful, because the more we can interact, the more you'll also get a sense of accountability, which is ultimately where a lot of the power in doing this Cook With Me Live is going to come from. Knowing that I'm kind of there, looking out for you, being supportive of you, making these efforts, and obviously if you have any questions, being there to answer those as well. So this is a bit of a quicker recipe tonight, but there's still quite a few little subtle nuances and tips and tricks that I want to be able to give you that you can apply to pretty much any other quick, fresh salad that you're going to be preparing. There's also some stuff I want to cover on creating flavor in dressings. It's interesting. I had a client just recently tell me that her son, although her son's not that interested in everything that she's doing food-wise and health-wise, I think he's about 8 years old. He said to his mom, I only met him once. He was just happened to be floating in on a day that we were doing a cooking session together with a group of people at her house. So he floated in once. We had a quick little chat, I guess you could call it. And the one thing that I said, which I didn't even remember I said, but he remembered, is I said to him basically along the lines of, if you can eat anything under a really good salad dressing. And that was something that stuck with him. So he's been talking about that with his mom, asking if they can start making salad dressings so that maybe he can start liking salad, because he's heard it's a good thing for him, which is awesome. So that is I'm a big believer in that, guys. If we can get you to start developing your skills in creating amazing flavor using whole food ingredients so that you can have salad dressings on hand at all times, that is the ultimate position to be in, because then it doesn't really matter what you put under that salad dressing. You can have 5 different salads in the week with the same salad dressing, never get bored, still feel like life is exciting, but have such an amazing flavor base and hopefully nutrition base coming from the dressing. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm going to be bringing to you today with a version of a pad thai sauce. Now, it's obviously not your traditional pad thai sauce, because the traditional pad thai sauce is, dare I say, not that amazingly healthy for you. It's very high in oil, sugar, and salt, basically, with a little bit of tamarind in there and a few other little flavors. So I'm going to kind of do the whole food version. So it's not going to be exactly what you've had if you've ever been to the streets of Thailand and ordered an amazing $1 pad thai. Not that I've done that. Yes, I have a few times. But this is kind of our take on the version of that for the whole food, and more of a salad dressing as opposed to something warm. That being said, if you want to make this into a warm salad, by all means you can. So once we're done creating the salad, you just very quickly, because everything's going to be cut very thinly, very quickly toss it in the frying pan. Then you can have a nice warm salad, and then you can warm the dressing in the same way. All right, so if everyone's ready to get going, give me a little hurrah. Hello and welcome. Denise is the first one on. Thank you, Denise. Are the kids with you tonight? All right, so let's jump straight in. I'm going to introduce you to some really cool kitchen toys. And I'm going to call them toys, but these are really useful toys. And you do not have to have them, okay? There's other ways that we can make this salad just as easy, but this definitely is, I almost shouldn't use the word toy, because then you think it's superfluous. But the reason why I think they're such an important thing in the kitchen, especially if you have kids or picky eaters, is because by making food a little bit more fun or presenting it in a different way, oftentimes that's all it takes to get someone to take an interest or to initially like it. So I want to show you, tonight I'm going to bring over the spiralizers. And I've got 2 different versions here. These are both made by the same company. It's a Japanese company. And you know what? I went there and went to Japan. I went to the shops and I bought a cheaper version of a spiralizer, and I was just really disappointed in it. It was quite flimsy and it broke within about 3 uses. So these are slightly the more expensive varieties, but I'm going to have them probably, for a very long time, very many years, I'm hoping. And they have interchangeable blades. So that's something you want to look for whenever you're buying a spiralizer. So this one's pretty easy. You just get 3 different levels of thickness of blade. This is the medium thickness. Okay, so I'm going to be using that one for making my zoodles, my zucchini noodles. And I'll probably use the same blade just because I can with the carrots as well. All right, so this is kind of more the commercial variety. This is supposedly the domestic variety. This one's vertical, that one's horizontal. Personally, this one's my favorite. So if you are going to be looking into that, we can provide a link to these here below the video. at some point after. But basically they work the exact same way. We got to skewer our vegetable on there and likewise onto here, and then we go nuts. I'm going to show you how that works now. And let's start with the zucchini. Zucchini is the best one to learn on, okay? But what I will say is if you don't have a Fandangle awesome spiralizer, that's absolutely okay. Other equipment that you could use to create just as yummy of a result, maybe you've got a mandolin. So those of you that have been doing a few different Cook With Me live videos already know how much I love my mandolin. So this is going to provide a similar result, but obviously it's going to be straight thin pieces as opposed to kind of curly twisted spirals. So again, we're going to do both. I'm going to show you what they look like so that you have the ability to see that. Alternatively, you could be using what's called a julienne peeler. And this again is going to produce a different result. So I'll show you what that one looks like on the carrots. And last but not least, if you don't have any of those, we're going to use the good old knife. Now it is going to be a bit more of a pain in the bum if you have to do everything by hand with a knife. So I'm guessing that you'll produce a delicious salad if you're cooking that now, but you may not want to do it again. So this is why I talk a lot about getting the right tool for the job. All right. Now, if you want to have more raw salads in your life, that's probably something you want to invest in is a spiralizer. And to get a fairly decent one so that you're not left, you know, proverbially and literally spinning your wheels. So this is how we do it. So we kind of need one that's going to fit into this machine. So that's actually not going to quite fit there. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to take a little bit off the end. Don't worry, I won't let that go to waste. So I want to skewer that in and get it into the grips of, I could have cut that a bit shorter actually. Let me cut that a little bit shorter. Let's try that again. So skewer it in and then get a good grip on the tweezers there. Okay? Now, to get you the best view of this, I'm going to lock it onto the edge of the cutting board so I can push. And here we go. How cool is that? Oh, it's just my favorite tool in the kitchen. It just creates such amazing kind of spaghetti-like texture, which again, people are so texturally oriented nowadays that it just makes such a difference when you bite into that in a salad. If it's nice and fine and delicate. And there we have it. Now this version of the spiralizer happens to produce a core through the middle, which looks a little bit funny when you take it out. You don't have to waste this bit, by the way. You can chop that up and have that in your salad too. All right, so this one does the core. This is really good for your zucchinis, your carrots, your beetroots, your daikon radishes, anything that's kind of more of a root vegetable. You could sometimes get away, well actually you can do potato, but sweet potato you might find a little bit challenging depending on how tough and hard that sweet potato is. Okay, so that's one tool I wanted to show you. I'll leave that to the side for a second. If we were to do similarly on the mandolin, this is the result that we would get. So I'm going to take off just a little bit of that edge. So instead, this way we're going to get straight pieces. Okay. So it's the same sort of thickness as the Zoodle, but obviously a totally different shape. So it's going to create a different mouthfeel yet again. And you might prefer more of a matchstick feel rather than a spaghetti noodle look. Okay. Now, if you don't want to bite into one forkful that does that, we're just going to give it a couple of little chops. 1, 2, maybe 3 this way. There we go. So a couple little chops, and now we've got these nice curls that we're going to build our salad with. Oh, it makes food fun. You know, what's the point? If you can't have fun with your food, and I think it's really good to encourage kids to play with their food, obviously in a bit of a controlled environment, but by doing it as the parent as well and showing them how to play with their food in a way that's not food fight messy, then obviously you have a little bit of control over how that goes. All right, so stepping it down one more time yet, we're going to use the julienne peeler and show you what kind of result we get with that. So this guy, I would recommend getting this version, so a nice metal one. I've bought the other kinds and they just break. Get a solid metal one. And then we're just going to step through doing the whole thing like this. This is also the tool that I use quite often to do my green papaya salads, especially the green mango salads. But as a matter of fact, you can actually put your green papaya through the spiralizer, and that's even faster, way faster. There we go. Okay, so we'll get that down as far as we can. End up with a slightly different core. Now look at the difference in size. So this is kind of really fine and delicate, and these are more like matchsticks. Right? So again, you are going to notice this in your mouth. It's going to feel different. Over time, this is going to soften up quite a bit. So if you don't like anywhere near a soft or soggy sort of feel, this is probably going to be a bit too thin, whereas this might suit you better. Okay, so it's really important to kind of understand how texture affects the feel, the mouth feel, because it's going to affect somebody's impression when they bite into it. So for the sake of today, I'm going to put them all in together. And we're going to end up with a bit of a mixture of cuts. And then we'll show you the carrot. So kind of same sort of thing goes here. We just need a flat edge perpendicular to the other end. All right, we're going to put that into that skewer and then lock it in the end. And here we go. Carrot noodles. So this one works really well if you can get sort of a fatter carrot. Otherwise, you get that core through the middle and you don't have as much around the outsides to spiralize. There we go. And it's safe enough for kids to get to do as well. So it's kind of a good thing if you've got young kids. I would probably recommend using it. And this, actually, the middle of the carrot is often the sweetest. So you can get the kids to kind of sneakily snack on that before dinner. And then, heck, you know, they're getting a lot more raw veggies into them before they've even started eating dinner, which is kind of a good little sneaky that you might only get away with when they're really starving hungry for some kids. So there we go. So now we've got this nice, again, curly texture. It's just light, and it's just light in the mouth, and it does make such a difference in the salad. All right. So I'll put that in with that. Now, sometimes carrots tend to oxidize really quickly. So if you've noticed that with your carrots, you might just want to take this opportunity to put some of the lime juice that we were going to be putting into the dressing over the carrot so that it doesn't tend to go brown. All right, so this is just a little trick. We're going to kind of donate some of the lime juice from the dressing and put it into the salad without any of the pits. All right, so just a little squeeze over that. Give that a bit of toss. Again, this is just for aesthetics. It's not critical. Keeps the oxygen from oxidizing our carrots. All right, so then if we were to do similarly with the other devices, same thing goes. We're going to get matchsticks with this guy. And then with the julienne peeler, we're going to get fine, beautiful shreds. It is a little bit messy. Sometimes it can get a bit clogged. But at the end of the day, it's going to taste amazing. And I do find that it's actually faster than grating it. But everyone might be different. Once you get the hang of it, if you've got a bit of a longer carrot, notice how I left the top on, so I have something to hold on to. That's going to save you a lot of waste as well. All right, so we'll go through that one. Make sure we get all the carrot for our salad. So if you guys are cooking with me tonight, I'm curious to know if you've ever made a salad similar to this before, whether it's kind of more on the raw side as far as cutting things very differently, a little bit more exotic that some people might find this type of salad. Or let me know if you've ever had sort of your own pad thai sauce or dressing before, or if pad thai has always been the thing that you've gone out for. We can definitely create those flavors in a more of a whole food way. And just quickly, guys, I wanted to touch on the whole idea of raw. So this January, I'm doing a lot more raw cook with me. So we've got another 3 coming up. Well, 3 including this one, that we're going to be focusing more on raw food because it's summer here and it's a great time to get kind of fresh and have some amazing fresh salads that we can really sink our teeth into and enjoy almost as a standalone meal on their own. Well, not almost, we can. All right, these are delicious meals and so satisfying. Plus, you can eat as much of it as you want because it's basically all just raw veggies and a bit of delicious, healthy sauce. So I'm focusing a little bit more on raw this month, but I think what I wanted to say on the raw idea is that I think people can sometimes tend to go to somewhat too extreme. And people might think, oh, yeah, I like the idea of raw, but I don't want to go 100% raw, so therefore I'm not going to do anything. And guys, that's kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The idea of eating raw food is so that you get more digestive enzymes, so you get more living enzymes and living cells in the food, which then translates into your body. So this is why I love incorporating more raw into into my world, into my day-to-day. And this is why I want to show you how easy it can be and how delicious it can be. So it's not that you have to go 100% raw. It's not that you have to worry about whether the salad dressing is perfectly raw. The idea is just to eat a little bit more raw veggies, and this is maybe how we can make it a bit easier for you. Okay, so we've cut up our zucchini and our carrot. When it comes to the snow peas, most snow peas you're going to have to unzip, unless they're this really specific hybrid version that's stringless. You're going to probably have to unzip them. So if you've never done that or known that, there's nothing worse than biting into a snow pea and kind of choking on a really strong string that hasn't been unzipped. So there's just like this little hook at one end. See how it's got this little lip at this end? So we're not talking about the head, but at the tail it's got this little hook. So you just pinch that hook and pull. And it's okay, if it's delicate, then it's just going to peel off, so we can do the same on that side. But if you happen to get a really strong one, it is pretty dangerous. It is pretty easy to choke on. So we definitely want to unzip them. Sometimes you'll unzip both sides. All right, so we do that quickly with our snow peas. And then sort of in the same fashion with the salad that we've done, we kind of want to cut them really thinly, and I like to cut them on an angle. It's a little bit more fancy, but it's also for the purpose of having more absorption of the dressing into the snow pea. So if you were to cut it straight across the center, we'd get tiny little pieces. But personally, I love biting into the crunchy crispiness of a snow pea. So I kind of want to get slightly bigger pieces, but still really thin. So this is how I'm going to do it. So you just take a couple snow peas at once, however many you can kind of comfortably stack on top of each other. And we're going to cut it on a sharp angle, right? So instead of cutting across the snow pea, we're going to cut on as much of an angle towards the length of the snow pea as we can. And it just exposes this beautiful edge of the snow pea, which looks really great. It kind of lets those nice snow peas come out. It shows more texture. And I just think it feels better in the mouth when you bite into it, to have a little bit more of kind of a defined bite of snow pea. Okay, so we're just on an angle. I'm just going to cut through a couple at a time. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can kind of just chop through them. But maybe it's a little bit something different to how you're used to cutting the snow peas. There we go. Okay, so again, it kind of looks a little bit noodle-ish, a little bit long and skinny in the fashion that we're doing. All right, so let's get some color into there. How about some capsicums? How's everyone going so far? Let me know if you guys have any questions. And when it comes to the capsicum, I've said red because I think it adds a nice little bit of color to the dish as well. Obviously, you can choose any color you wish. I'm just going to cut into that, take out the center, take out any extra seeds that are still in there. Okay, and then again, I want long, thin pieces. So nothing complicated here. We're just going to get in there, do some nice, skinny pieces of our capsicum. Okay, least amount of work, best result at the end. There we go. Now, if you don't want to bite into a large piece of capsicum, you can always cut these in half as well, if you find that's a bit too big. Okay, so it depends on the feel you want to have for the salad. Some of these are maybe a little bit big still, even though those were tiny capsicums. So I'm just going to cut through a couple of those. There we go. Okay, so we're starting to build the rainbow. Don't know if you've heard that before, but we've got to try to eat more of a rainbow, at least in our world. Now, some green onions. These were green onions. Now we've left with the white bottoms. These were freshly picked from a friend of mine's garden, which is very exciting. Look at them, they're so healthy. This is an amazing part of the onion that a lot of people throw out, I found out, which surprises me. So it's just stronger, guys. It's the same thing, it's just stronger, which means you either cut it smaller or you use less of it. So in order to use these in our salad, again, it's quite nice if we can go on an angle because we're going to expose more of the edge of the green onion. So I'm just going to start into it as thin as I possibly can and on an angle, because then it produces that beautiful kind of exposed look of the green onion. Now, these are quite fat green onions, but you see how it produces a different look. Okay, it's just aesthetics, this one, pretty much, but we definitely want to make sure that it stays nice and thin so that you're not biting into a massive piece of strong onion. Okay, and this is also a really good test to see if you've properly been sharpening your knives lately. And clearly I haven't. So green onions are a great test for that as well. Now, again, I've called for an amount, but it's entirely up to you. So however much you like that bit of green onion, it's going to be stronger if you're using the white. Use more if you're using the green. So I'll just put a little bit of that in. There we go. Okay, and then we're up to the coriander. So when it comes to coriander, we are going to be using both parts of this. So we're going to keep the stems for the dressing, and we're going to put the leaves in the salad. Now, I haven't washed these yet because I wanted to show you here what we do with this. Normally when they're grown in kind of a sandy soil. So you can probably even feel it when you take them out. They're a bit gritty, and most of that sand is going to be concentrated right at the base where all the stems come together. So what I like to do is generally take it off right at the root. Now, these are really good to be putting into your broth, your soups and your stocks. So you could be putting these into the freezer in your container that's got all your other scraps in it. And then the next time you go to make broth, you've got some extra beautiful flavor and nutrients. And then I just take another little bit off just to expose and separate the stems. And see how much dirt is inside those stems? Okay, so that's what I wanted to expose. And then I'm going to take the stems and rinse them underwater. Okay, so this is where, and you just kind of get in there and massage the stems apart. And then we get all the grit out of them. Give them a good little rub, and then we can continue to wash down. Okay, so that's pretty much the easiest way and the simplest way to use your coriander and to not let any of it go to waste. All right, so we'll give that a good shake. If you were wanting this salad to last a lot longer, it'd be good if you spun dry this, because that extra bit of moisture was going to make it go a bit soggier faster. Okay. Now I just realized I had all that sand in the middle of my board, so I'm going to get rid of that one. There we go. So given that we are starting a brand new year, I would love to hear from you guys what your goal is this year. Main goal, whether it's health goal, food goals, changes that you want to make. I'd love to hear what you want to do, because maybe I can tie it in and help you on that journey with a few other more specific recipes. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So we're just going to chop the stems up in just fairly small pieces. They're going to go in the blender eventually. So we're going to keep all those stems, we'll put them in the blender, and we're going to leave the leaves for the salad. So just a bigger chop. So bigger pieces, we want to see those leaves. There we go. So nice big leaves. If you want to take out those extra stems, you can, and then we'll put those straight into the salad. All right. Now, last but not least, are bean sprouts. Now, this is one version of bean sprouts. You might have been expecting the other version, the long, skinny, white, traditional kind of bean sprouts that they put in a stir fry. Now, you can definitely grow this version, on your own. And those big, long, skinny ones are just these that have been highly fertilized and supported, I guess, in their growth so that they go massive. So they're not always as easy to find. Well, actually, they're pretty hard to find grown organically, whereas this version, this tinier version, younger version, is a lot easier to find organic. So I would recommend you kind of have a think about that. These are just as yummy, just as crunchy. Actually, I think they're a bit nicer, a bit more crunchy. And these also, you can grow on your kitchen bench in 3 days. So it's very simple. It's a good way to get a massive amount of nutrition into your body through those types of sprouts. All right. So these ones I have pre-washed. I'm going to give them a little, I'm just going to add them to the salad like that. I'm going to add quite a few actually, because they're delicious and I know how much my body is going to appreciate the nutrients that are jam-packed into a sprout, guys. Did you know that sprouts have more nutrients per calorie than any other food known to man? Eat your sprouts. Okay, so those are our bean sprouts. Those are made from mung beans, by the way. So you can go and buy bulk mung beans. You can soak them for about 6 to 8 hours in clean water. Hopefully you've got a nut milk bag or a sprouting bag on hand. You can soak them in that, drain the water after 6 hours, and just let them hang somewhere in your bench over a fresh bowl of water. And then twice a day, just either bring the water to the sprouts or the sprouts to the water and dunk them. So wet them twice a day. And in 3 days, maybe even 2 days, you'll have sprouts. It's that easy, okay? All right, so this is our salad. This is what we're going to be building the base from. So we're going to give that a little toss. We're going to create all that beautiful color. This looks like a bit of a Christmas salad, it could be. Get a nice mixture happening through there. And guys, there's so many alternatives that you could be putting in here. There's so many different veggies and different flavors you can be adding. You could be making it slightly different every time you did it. And if you wanted it to be more substantial as a meal, or you wanted to introduce it to someone that's not used to just having a vegetarian meal, you could also be kind of bulking it out with some rice noodles like you would have in a pad thai, but you've got the balance different. So instead of having all noodles and a few little shreds of carrot, you're having, mostly raw veggies and a few little bits of rice noodles. So you can do things like that. You just do it in different proportions, and you can present it in a totally different way that way. Okay? I love playing around with making a recipe my own. Okay, question. Oh, actually, Denise, your goal, thank you for sharing, Denise, is to get on some more live sessions with you. I like that goal, Denise. Thank you. And I'd love it if the kids could be on too. Thank you. That's awesome. Casey, yum, this sounds amazing. I'll have to watch this later. I've got some little people to put to bed. Oh, I won't be too far behind, to be honest, Casey, when I'm going to go to bed after this. Yes, I'm feeling it. So, all right, well, we'll see you next time, Casey. Okay, let's quickly put together the dressing, guys. It's super easy, but you are going to need either a blender or an immersion blender, something to kind of make everything go cohesive together and save us the effort of cutting up the ginger and the garlic, basically. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that over, and I'm going to bring all the ingredients over. I'm going to show you a few little tricks with that. So I'm going to be using just my little bullet style blender. Nothing special there. Do not need anything fancy for that. And these I will not throw away. I'm just going to chop them up later. Okay. And then we're going to need some tomato sauce. Now, I have called for sort of your regular tomato sauce, knowing that traditionally pad thai has a lot of sugar in it. So you can be kind of reducing the amount that you add if you're adding normal tomato sauce, and it kind of saves an extra step. If you've got homemade tomato sauce, you might need to add a little bit of extra sweetness if that's how you like it. Otherwise, that's a great way to be able to customize your dish to not be so sweet, is to have your own homemade tomato sauce. And obviously not add any extra if you don't need it. Okay? All right. So lime juice or lemon, entirely up to you, about 4 tablespoons. But if you're starting to practice your efficiency techniques in the kitchen, you may be already doubling most of the sauces that you're pretty confident you'll like, because then you know that throughout the week you're going to have things on hand that's already started, as in you've already got a sauce there. So now it's a lot easier for you to come up with a meal because you've got a starting place. Okay, sometimes having too much choice is not as good. So we're going to get ourselves some lemon or lime juice. Make sure we get all of it out. That always gets missed, I find, with people. Lots of juice in there. And we might need a little bit more, so we'll do one more bit of lime. Good to think of your kitchen as your gym, too. Changes the intention of what you do from being a chore to being a benefit. It's all about how you think about it. Okay, so we've got our lime juice. We're going to go about 4 tablespoons, which is normally enough from 2 limes. This was kind of a really big one and a really little one, so I'll see how lucky I got. Approximately 4 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, and yes, just 4. Awesome. But if you had extra in it, just put it in. You can adjust the balance later. When it comes to the tomato sauce, again, guys, this not a traditional ingredient, obviously, in pad thai, until I sealed that well. But it is an ingredient that, like I said, is going to give it that sort of pad thai-esque flavor that we're after. So we want about 2 tablespoons worth of that. And it's going to vary. So if, obviously this is homemade, so it's going to taste different if you're using a different version of tomato sauce. I'm just going to eyeball the 2nd tablespoon there because we can go by taste on this one. That's about 2 tablespoons of our tomato sauce. Okay. And now 2 tablespoons of tahini. Now this is kind of going to act as a thickening ingredient. It's also going to bring a lot of calcium to the dish, and it's got that nice sesame flavor. But if you really love the peanut flavor, you might want to use peanut butter instead. It's going to be slightly more satay, I guess, than pad thai, but that's absolutely okay because we're already breaking all the rules. We're not breaking them, we're writing our own. I think that's a better way to say it. What do you guys think? So a couple tablespoons of tahini. If you are brand new to tahini, start with hulled tahini. All right, so I'm using unhulled, which is much stronger in flavor. It's also got more nutrients because of that. But if you're, rather than getting turned off of it completely initially, if you're brand new to it, you might want to start with the hulled variety first. Okay. We're going to put our coriander in. Now, I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to use what I've got because I love coriander, and I'm pretty sure that's about right, about what we've called for. About 1/4 cup of stems. Let the machine do the work. Now, I've said 1 clove of garlic, but keep in mind that this is going to be a raw dressing. And if your clove of garlic is fairly big, that could potentially overpower it, unless you absolutely love garlic. So I've said 1 clove, but heads up, just something for you to know as far as a skill goes, because you'll see this in a lot of other recipes. I want you to know that in a raw dressing, this is probably going to be too much. Okay, so I'm just going to start with maybe a little more than half and go from there. So we're going to crush it. It peels better that way. And I'm going to go for just a little bit more than half. And the machine is going to do most of the work, but I'm just going to help it out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so the garlic's in. I'm going to save the rest of that. And I like things quite spicy, so I went and harvested some of my red chilies off of the plant. Now, be very careful when you cut red chilies, okay? Obviously, you don't want your skin to come in contact with the cut surface. So I like to use a little fork or a spoon here just to help me take out all the seeds. It's a little bit finicky. If you were doing a lot of them at once, you could just put some gloves on, but I don't need to waste a set of disposable gloves if I don't have to. Okay, so it's just kind of like you're cutting something with a fork and a knife. There we go. We'll take the seeds out. Keep that away. And then I'm just going to give them a little chop. So before you go and put the whole thing in, you might want to actually start with just a piece of it or just half, especially if you're not sure whether or not you're going to like spicy. I love spicy, so I'm going to go the whole lot. Again, not touching any of those cut edges with my fingers, and then making sure I give these utensils a rinse in case I accidentally do that. Believe me, it only takes once to have burning eyeballs because you accidentally rubbed your eye with chili in it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've got our garlic. We need our ginger. Now, ginger is not technically traditional in a pad thai. I like to put it in. You don't have to put it in, but the amount of health benefits that are in ginger, and it's just amazing. Okay, so if you can start incorporating ginger in more things than I guess normally you would, or starting to train yourself to like it. I have a lovely client who just absolutely detested ginger. It was just the one flavor that she couldn't do. And she was very wonderful in the course, and she started trying it and making herself see if she could just come around to liking it. And now she adds it to everything. She's hooked. She absolutely loves it. So you absolutely can retrain your taste buds, guys. And for something like ginger, I would highly recommend it because it is an amazing superfood. So good. This is a little bit tough. It's a little bit of an old ginger, so I'm going to give it a bit of help. Not let my blender have to do everything. It's not the greatest blender. Okay, and we'll let it do the rest. All right, so our fresh ginger, our fresh garlic, we've got our chili in there. We're going to need some tamari or coconut aminos, up to you. And those of you that are not, I guess, that want to use fish sauce, that is the much more traditional one, but obviously that's the fish product, so just heads up. So what about 1.5 tablespoons we're looking for of the tamari or the coconut aminos. Coconut aminos is a little bit less strong, so you could even do a little bit more of that one. Okay, so about 1.5 tablespoons. And then you do not have to put in any extra sugar whatsoever if you don't wish to. If you're having this as that's the meal, you're not having it with anything else, there's not so much of a worry. Like if you want to make this special enough that a person can enjoy it if they're not used to eating more of a vegetarian meal, then in this case you might want to start out by putting the sugar in. Now, I've only called for about 3 teaspoons, which is about a tablespoon. I'm going to go a bit less than that. Okay. And then initially, or I guess once you get someone to love a dish and you've kind of got their initial guard down, their acceptance, they like your dish, and this works especially well with kids, then every time you make it, you can start to peel back the sugar, if you wish. Now, about 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And some of you may go, wow, that seems like a lot of salt if you properly measure it. But I need you to remember that this dressing has to go over potentially 6 whole serves of the salad. And by the time it goes through the whole salad, it's going to actually feel quite diluted. So it is important to get sort of that full amount, just if you want to carry the flavor. But if you really don't like salty things at all, then obviously put less and you can test it later and tweak it to your liking. How are we going? Could you use fish sauce and coconut amigos? Thank you, Denise. I love it. I wish I had some good coconut amigos on hand at the moment. Can you come down? Aminos, thank you. Yes, you could definitely use fish sauce and coconut sugar, or coconut amigos. Yes, I'll just say yes. Good one, Denise. And then we need to put a bit of water in because chances are this is going to be too thick. So let's add about 3 tablespoons of water. That's going to be a bit crazy. Go 3 of those. There we go. And we'll give it a good blend. So let this blend a fair while because we want to make sure that that ginger gets down really fine, and also the coriander seeds or coriander stems. All right, and then you need to have a taste. And this is what I want to talk to you about when it comes to flavor, okay? Because this is not needing to be cooked. There's nothing in here that's going to, harm us by not being cooked. That's why we're doing it as a dressing. So this is great because then you can actually test it and go, does it suit? Does it work? What does it need? And when you first bite into it, it should be quite punchy. Because keep in mind, it's going to dilute a lot as we put it over the salad. So have a little think. Does it have what it needs? This has got a good bit of kick to it. I think I've got a good balance going on here. I've got enough saltiness, enough sweetness for my palate. If it's too punchy, you might need to dilute it with a little bit more tahini and water, okay, if it's too strong for you. Otherwise, if it's lacking a bit of punch, you could add either acidity or saltiness, which is either more lime or lemon juice or salt. And both salt and lime juice or salt and lemon juice are going to kind of accentuate each other. All right, so those are, sometimes people have a hard time determining whether something is too acidic or too salty because they can kind of combine into each other quite well. All right, so I'm happy with that. We've got kind of a nice consistency of a dressing here. So if you wanted it to be super smooth, like let's say, for example, your ginger was quite stringy, you could even now put this through a sieve so that you could just kind of thin all that out, but it should be absolutely fine as is. So last step is to crush our peanuts, and then we'll dish up and we will serve up dinner. Okay, so I'm going to show you a trick for crushing peanuts. A lot of people would probably just get into it and start cutting the peanuts. And I find that just doesn't produce quite the same result. So what I'm going to do is clear a spot on the board, get out a clean tea towel. We're going to get our peanuts. And this is where the kids might want to have some fun. So straight onto the board. We're going to cover that with one layer of our clean tea towel. It's kind of like a magic trick. And then you're going to need a heavy object. So it could be a mallet. You could get the kids out with a rubber mallet and let them go nuts. You might want to put it on the floor if you do that. I'm going to use a mortar and pestle base. Okay. So then we're just going to rock through it. You can hear them crushing. And you can check on them. Oh, we're getting there. Okay. Crush them up. And there we have it. Our nice crushed peanuts. So we could put them together again and do it one more time if you still have some pretty big chunks in there. Done. So when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure my mom set me up to do this in a big Ziploc bag. But then that was plastic, and then it broke, and then it went everywhere, and then I had to throw the plastic out. This works a lot better, okay? So you can have nice crushed peanuts without having that kind of chopped look, and it's going to look a lot better on top of your salad. And then obviously this just can go in the wash. All right, let's plate it up. Do you have a nice dish you want to prepare it on? I have too many dishes in my drawer, clearly. Guys, it's this easy. So we'll take a nice bit of salad. You might want to save some of those bits of coriander to decorate on top. Okay, you could put the dressing on first. Nice generous drizzle of dressing around the edges. There we go. And then a nice sprinkle of nuts on top. And there we have it. I love eating this salad with chopsticks. Maybe not traditional, but that's okay. Absolutely love this salad with chopsticks. There we go. There is your Zoodle pad thai with zucchini noodles. Again, feel free to change up any of the veggies that you like. And otherwise, I will see you guys next time on Cook With Me Live. Bon appetit.